You'd think a movie devoid of sexual content would have no problem being passed by the censors at the Production Code Office. But remember, the PCA policed violence with almost the same scrutiny it did immorality and sex. In the initial draft of The Tattooed Stranger, the weapon used to obliterate the victim's face was specifically identified as a sawed-off shotgun, which the PCA would not allow since it was illegal to modify a sporting gun in such a way. The film's producers assuaged the PCA by getting the NYPD to supply them with a Remington Model 17, a 20-gauge shot pistol. By 1950, the police had stopped using that gun, but since it could be bought legally, the PCA agreed. The Tattooed Stranger was successful enough that in the summer of 1950, Variety reported that RKO Pathé was preparing to make a whole slate of inexpensive features, essentially becoming the East Coast arm of RKO's B unit. That notion began when Sid Rogel, RKO's longtime chief of production, resigned in May of that year, no longer able to tolerate the eccentricities of studio boss Howard Hughes. But the glory days of a new, revamped RKO Pathé never came. Most of the creative talent involved in making The Tattooed Stranger instead found work in television, which was starting to siphon off movie talent that had worked in B films for the previous 2 decades. Soon enough, productions like The Tattooed Stranger would move to TV, and such shows as M Squad, Bourbon Street Beat, and The Naked City would become, in the 50s, small-screen variations on film noir. The producer of The Tattooed Stranger, Jay Bonifield, returned to making short subjects for This Is America, which by the end of 1951 had run its course. People were now getting the latest news at home from TV, and theatrical newsreels and short subjects soon became archaic. But there was a significant footnote to Bonifield's long run on This Is America. One of the last films in the series he produced was an inside look at boxing called The Day of the Fight from 1951, and it was the first directing credit for a young New Yorker destined to make a major impact on cinema, Stanley Kubrick. The director of The Tattooed Stranger may not be in Kubrick's class, but he fashioned a durable career for himself. Edward Montaigne was, in fact, born into the movie business. His father, Edward Montaigne Sr., was a story supervisor for Carl Laemmle at Universal during the silent era. So, thanks to a little nepotism, he had a nice safety net to fall into when his dream of being a Major League Baseball player fell short. He served as an assistant director starting on features in 1932, but became adept at documentaries once he was called up for military duty in World War II. As an officer in the Photographic Corps, he filmed combat in Monte Cassino, the Anzio beachhead, the liberation of Rome by Allied forces, and in Milan, he was the only American photographer to get footage of the public desecration of the corpses of fascist dictator Benito Mussolini and his mistress, Clara Petacci. In addition to directing many issues of This Is America, Montaigne directed one other sort of film noir, the 1951 feature The Man with My Face. After that, he became a fixture on television, putting his World War II experience to use as a producer of 2 popular series, The Phil Silvers Show, a.k.a. Sergeant Bilko, and McHale's Navy. That is a long way from the beach at Anzio. Now, as for the actors in today's show, this would be the first and last starring role for John Miles, who had previously appeared in several Hal Roach B films. This was, in fact, the last movie Miles would make. By contrast, his co-star, 27-year-old Patricia White, already had 18 feature films to her credit. Under the name Patricia Barry, she'd act steadily, mostly on television, all the way up to her death in 2016. My favorite in the cast, by far, is Walter Kinsella, playing Lieutenant Corrigan. Although he had a nice career in television, this is the only feature film he ever made.
Oh, what have you done with your new assistant?
Louis Pasteur? He's down in the garage trying to get the murder car into a test tube.
Now, is it just me, or is Kinsella a dead ringer for very recognizable character actor Ed Lauter? Kinsella's career ended in 1966. Lauter's began in 1971. Coincidence? Or a remake of The Man with My Face? Okay, that'll do it for this week. I don't want the outro to be longer than the movie. Tell us what you thought of today's film, or just post pictures of your tattoos on the Noir Alley Facebook page and Twitter feed. Then join me back here next week when an esteemed actor makes his first appearance on Noir Alley. Spencer Tracy stars in the 1951 drama The People Against O'Hara, directed by John Sturgis and photographed by noir maestro John Alton. Be here for that. Now I got to run. I got a guy coming in who's going to put a full figure tattoo of Gloria Graham right on my... Never mind. See you next week.